Hello and welcome back to another episode of World Traveler Cooking. Today we're going to do lactic fermented cucumbers. So these are like, I think they're called surgurken, I think in Swedish, if I remember right. Salt gurken, I think in German, if I remember right. But basically, and they're sometimes called half sour or full sour pickles in the US, depending on how long they have been fermented. Because of the size of my bottles, I've chosen to use mini baby cucumbers, but you can use cucumbers of whatever size you like. And basically, all we do is we brine them with a cultured brine. Now, if you're in temperate areas like the United States, you do not have to add culture to your brine. You can just add salt and water and cover them, hold them underwater, and they will ferment. In the tropics, I have never had that work. The only thing I've had work properly fermenting that way is rye flour, and I believe that's because it is imported. I think the issue is that the microculture here, at least in Indonesia, does not support lactic fermentation. So if you want lactic fermentation, you're going to have to add a culture. So what I've done in this case is I've saved the brine from making sauerkraut over and over again, and the first sauerkraut batch I seeded with some fermented rye flour. That led to some cam yeast the first time around, but as time's gone on, the cam yeast has disappeared. I believe that's because the acidity has increased. So if you're in the tropics and you're having trouble with that, try starting off by making the rye sourdough culture that I have in the other video. Try using that at first and try reusing that liquid, even if there's cam yeast at first, until you get a good result. The issue is lactobacillus isn't as common in the environment over here. So I think part of that's temperature, part of it may also be a history of human activity. So today, this is going to be really simple. I'm going to pack these in jars, and then I will cover them with a mixture of 500 milliliters of water to 1 tablespoon, or about 14 grams or so, or 14 milliliters or so of salt. I'll put some weights and stuff forth in the comments. Doesn't have to be exactly that, and of course I will add then the remainder of the sauerkraut juice into that brine to give it that initial culture. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is I have trimmed these so that they are well underneath the lid of these, and I've packed them in really tight. So you can see in this one I have 8, and in this one I have 7. And I have put in half a tablespoon of salt and 150 milliliters of water, and the rest of the sauerkraut brine. I've stirred it so everything's dissolved. And I'm going to cover these here. Looks like I need a little more brine, so I will mix up a little bit, and then we'll set these in an air-conditioned room. So now I have them like this. I will leave the lid just slightly loose. I will set these on a plate, and I'll come back and check them in a few days. I want to make sure these don't float. If they float, I'll have to put a spacer in, like a little bag of water or something to space it from the lid. But I'll be back in a few days. So it's been a few days, and this may seem like cheating, but I have already opened these and tried one out of each. And so these have loosened up. They are floating a little bit, so if I were going to ferment them for much longer, I would definitely want to put a spacer in. But yeah, that's what we have. I'm going to take a photo of these, and then I will go to the taste test. And now for the taste test. They smell sort of like a pickle, obviously. So these are quite crunchy, quite a bit sour, quite salty. Much crunchier than most dill pickles you'll get. And of course there's no dill flavor because I didn't add any dill, but you could if you wanted. However, since I'm reusing the brine, I didn't really want to keep reusing spices in it. So I decided to do it straight. Really like the simplicity of this. It's really nice. So if you find this content interesting, you'd like to see more of it, please like, share, and subscribe. If you make a dish like this, you make it a little differently, love to hear how, or if you have anything else you'd like to say, please leave it in the comments. Always find it's good. You have to understand it's a great resource, not just for, providing extra ideas for me, but also anybody else who watches the video. Can get information from the comments about, maybe how people would do things differently. And note, this sort of pickle doesn't even require vinegar. So, recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.